So he took on anybody. If the team wasn't any good and you weren't a league team, he took you off the schedule.
George Carl, who now coaches for Denver Nuggets, and that was with Penn Hills, come in, he was all everything. He shut him down.
Would you consider him ahead of his time?
Definitely ahead of his time. And I'll give you an example. When I watched old film back in the 48s and the 50s, it was nothing but standard 2-3 zone where everybody would just stand around, throw a few passes, and shoot these long 40-foot two-hand push shots. But when Coach McCluskey came, he said, now we're going to get into the lanes defensively. We're going to play you nothing but man-for-man, full-court pressure. Now, what happened is teams had to learn how to move without the ball, how to handle the ball a lot better because there was pressure all over you. You had to pass much better. You had to play without the ball. That revolutionized everything that was previously nobody thought about.
The clinics, he gave the clinics as defense because he felt defense could win the games if your offense couldn't.
Now, all these people you just mentioned, are these people that came to his clinic, or he went to their clinics, or?
He would go to their clinic, but he would be asked to speak at their clinics. He had his own clinics. He ran camps at Erie, at Gannon, which in the interim, in between school and college and summers when he had the camps, I would help him work out there. And he was well respected, coast to coast.
So you think when you hear about the Farrell weave,
correct?
Did he invent it, or did he find that and embellish it?
I think he saw and embellished that from the Eastern basketball. When I said in '51 when he lost the state, I think he learned.
Who did they lose to in '51?
I think it was Allentown, and they were a great team, but he embellished, as you would say, the weave, three-man weave. And then he embellished that more by 53 and 54 into the last 2 minutes of the game where you can freeze the ball. And he went into a offshoot of that three-man weave into a five-man weave to freeze the ball to win games. And well known for that.
When you got ahead in the game, you'd go into that weave or freeze the ball, and it was hard to stop.
How long could you do
Well, I remember one year Farrell, they were playing a team that was way bigger than them, and all their Farrell's big players were out on fouls, and Farrell froze the ball almost for a whole quarter.
A whole quarter?
Almost a whole quarter, yeah.
He taught American history, and he was just as disciplined in his classroom as he took it to the basketball court, the gymnasium. And I think if you're a great teacher, you could be a great coach because you must teach. And that's what made him, to me, I think one of his things and when he was in the classroom, you didn't fool around. He wasn't one to give you a study hall and do that.
Now, why do you think?
When I was working with him in the summer, he would go away to Kutcher's in the Catskills. And I found out, and he told me that gentlemen like Claire B. was there, Hank Iba. He once told me, he says, Frank, he says, there's a great young coach at West Point that's up there. He's going to be a great coach. Bobby Knight. He told me when he was at a clinic and that he roomed with Adolph Rupp. And I think what happened, all of these minds together would get together up in the Catskills.
Now you were on the team
Right.
that beat Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
Do you remember the game?
Oh yeah, it's very, very distinctly. You never forget that.
What was that? What was the anticipation of playing Wilt Chamberlain? I mean, did you guys know about him, or did you know about Overbrook, or both of them?
No, we didn't know anything. All I know that when I was a junior, and we were playing after the state game.
Now, what state game was this?
1954. We beat Chester.
Chester.
Right, we played Chester for the state game, and I think the score was 58-54. We beat them by a couple points. Then after the game, I was happy as heck. We won, and me and Doc Holar, we was happy. And Mac came over to me because he knew I was a returning letterman. He said, Gus, you're going to play against the greatest guy in the world. And I figured, I didn't even know who he was. And he said, next year, he said, the greatest basketball player in the world. And I figured it was just a bunch of BS, but then as time went on in summer, we got to know more about Chamberlain and all the records that he had and what he was.
When what kind of preparation did you guys do?
Well, he strictly was his defense. He figured he could stop him on defense. And then at one time we had brooms, I remember, never forget that, to shoot over him because he was so tall that he'd block shots. And I can remember in that one game, I was a set shooter. I took a two-hand set shot, and he grabbed it and snatched it in the air. And that was just amazing. And then when they threw the ball in him, he took one step and one dribble and dunked the ball from the foul line. That was just awesome to see that stuff and to play against a guy like that.
How was he able to stop him?
Well, we used a zone against him, a box zone, and Mac figured we'll stop the other players. We knew we were going to just contain him. We weren't going to stop him, but we tried to do the best to contain him because he was so great and so big at the time. And it was really something that we used a box zone on him.
What's a box zone? I can't
Well, a box zone is like a 2-1 zone. Every time the ball was thrown into him, he had a bunch of ball players around him to try to stop him. And I could remember this is real important in this game, that I'll tell you guys. They say they got hosed the way I feel about it. I played against him. I can remember Mac. Yeah, Chamberlain had 3 fouls on him, and it was halftime, and Mac ran over there, and he told them officials, don't you foul him out of the ball game because they'll say that we cheated him. He said, that's the main thing. I don't want him fouling out. They'll say that we robbed him. And in that game, we had him 10-0 before they knew what happened, 9 or 10-0 on field goals. We're playing against, we were getting up against him, and then the first time I ever saw him in the gym, and you saw him, geez, 7'1", even the referees were a monster to head over him and everything, and it was something just to see him, you know. And like I said, we never feared him though, because we figured we had Mac there, and everybody had trust in him, and he figured we could beat him, and he was really up for that game, and he wanted to win that game bad.
Who made the last 2 shots?
I made the last 2 shots, foul shots. But
So you're at the foul line, okay? You make the first one.
right.
What do you think in the second one?
I first, when I made the first, I said, thank God. And I was thinking, boy, if I could only make the second one. I said, boy, if I could make the second one. And then we had to get back and play defense, too. You had to always hustle, and just because you made the fouls, that wasn't a game. I knew there was time on the clock yet.
How much time was left after you
Oh,
made the 2
geez.
fouls?
I don't know. I'd say about a half a minute that I could remember, and they got the ball out, and they went
And
down.
who took that shot? Was it Chamberlain?
Yeah, they threw the ball to him in a corner, and Don Jones was our biggest man, and he come over and he just like shot over Don Jones, and Jimmy McCoy got the last rebound.
He didn't touch the ball, because it's hard to touch the ball when Chamberlain.
Right, he didn't touch it, but it looked like. But it's hard to remember all that. But I remember Jimmy McCoy. But they did have the ball out under their bucket, so.
How'd you guys celebrate?
Oh, they went crazy. People went crazy. They went crazy, but Mac would never let you go crazy. He was worried about it. He said, got a lot of games left yet, so he never let you celebrate till it was all over.
Yeah, but